Hi Chris, how are you?
Good afternoon, Rod. Yeah, well, here we are. It's the end of May. It is the last day of May. Who'd have thought it? So we're flying through, and I got some sad news. We are, 3 weeks out from having the longest day of the year, or maybe 4 weeks at a push. Like, it just seems crazy. It doesn't feel like we're into the year yet, and the longest day is soon going to be upon us.
Well, it feels like we've already had summer, that's for sure. This last sort of week, 10 days, has been incredibly hot, humid, actively sunny in places, but a bit more rainy today.
No rain, but yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. So it's episode 227 for those listening. And should we get straight into follow-up?
I think we should probably get straight into some follow-up, yeah. And a slightly odd show this week, I think. You can tell there's a dearth of news before WWDC, so we'll do what we can to bring some topical news stories this way.
Has it not been the dearth of news all year? There just really has been nothing this year that's... Other than the MacBook Neo... I'm trying to cast my mind of maybe some of the Google Android stuff. There's not been anything that exciting or that like, whoa, holy moly, they've done this thing.
I think hold that thought on the Google Android stuff. Anyway, let's move and talk about this. So we reported when ICE was being troublesome. I'm trying to think of an appropriate word. Nasty. Problematic to. The protesters who were protesting in various cities in America, and to Apple and Google about, the various apps that would allow you to identify where people, if ICE were in the area and all that kind of stuff. So this is the immigration, what's it called? Immigration? Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
The immigration agency in America is part of the Department of Homeland Security. They were being problematic to Apple and Google, and this is a story that's broken this week. Apparently, the Department of Justice is asking Reddit and X, who would obviously have been platforms that the protesters would have used, for the identities of anti-ICE posters. So that's just taking it to another level. You're not only sort of deplatforming the people, the companies that were having this going on, but now you're actually actively seeking people involved in that anti-governmental protest.
Not sure how I feel about this. Like, this doesn't feel right, does it? Like, it feels like the long arm of, I can say the law, but that's not even right, is it? The long arm of the administration is going too far here, in my opinion.
This administration going too far?
Yeah, let's leave it there, maybe.
I'm horrified that you'd think such a thing.
Yeah, this isn't right, is it?
Nothing about this is right, and it's Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. That's what ICE stands for.
I did not know that.
There you go. No, not. I mean, we're not American. We can say what we like, but not a nice agency in the current term. Possibly not a nice agency ever. But what they were doing to their own citizens, including shooting them, removing them from vehicles, doing all sorts of things, and the, up against whatever else was going on, was absolutely not a great thing. I think Apple and Google didn't cover themselves in any favors by doing this, and this is just taking it to another level where they will aggressively pursue people that were actively against them. And I just don't think it doesn't strike me as terribly democratic anyway.
Sorry, I'm shaking my head for the listeners at home. No, I concur with you. It does not feel right, this. So,
no.
Yeah, agreed.
Speaking of things that aren't democratic, we've had a few stories on the podcast about age verification coming to various platforms. It's funny, two people I know this week got struck by the Apple one. They're going, hang on, why is iOS asking me for a credit card? Why is iOS asking me for my passport?
Oh, I've seen nothing since we first spoke about it a month ago, 6 weeks.
I think they must have rolled it out gradually amongst the various sort of point releases for iOS 26, 25.
It feels like something you would want to trickle out.
But I think that's a really bad look. Hang on, why is my phone suddenly asking me for my credit card or my passport? It feels like a scam.
Yeah, I was just about to say, in the world of phishing, you're right. Maybe it is not a good look. Maybe they should have signposted it's coming before it came so that people knew it was legitimate.
Particularly for people that may share, Apple IDs or are older or not used to their phone. They use their phones as phones and then suddenly install a security update, which people like you and me are always banging on about, and they're being prompted to verify their age with their passport. Which is getting me off the point slightly that, it looks like Windows is going to do this. Certainly the Mac or iOS has certainly started doing this, but Linux was being mooted as it might have to do this as well. But at least in California, it looks like Linux will be exempt from an age check, which I think is a good thing.
Why is Linux different, do we think?
Well, because Linux is a kernel. It's not an operating system per se, right? It's down to the
okay. So it's down to the distributor of the kernel, right?
It's potentially down to the distributor, and even then, if you're Red Hat, Debian, Ubuntu, whoever you are, somebody can still build a variant of your distribution by scripting it. So it's not necessarily even down to the distro owner. That might be different for somebody like Valve, who bring together things for the Steam Deck and could be seen more traditionally as an operating system vendor than your typical distributor. But I think this is quite an interesting time for Linux and for people who value sort of open source and freedom of the internet. Isn't it interesting that once again Linux is going to be potentially the torchbearer for that?
It's quite cool, isn't it? It's quite cool. I can see that Steam, like you said, I can see how Steam might end up doing it because they have to. They've got their layer on the top. They're selling hardware, a bit like Apple in a way. So, okay, makes sense.
Yep, does make sense. Something that doesn't make sense, or maybe it does, knowing the slimy company that Meta is, the sort of interesting operator that Meta is, he said, hurriedly rowing back. They're rolling out subscription tiers for Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. So this is a story in Engadget. It's not going to cost very much. It's about $2.99 per app. The core elements of the apps are going to remain free. It seems like you're just going to get extra things like new ways to react to things and various other bits and pieces like that. You'll be able to feature audiences more on Meta. Maybe just give your subscribers more room to react to things for posts you've put up for your influencing behavior. But you're going to get things like the top tier is going to be called Meta 1. It's $2.99 per month, for example, for WhatsApp Plus. You can have super hearts and things like that when you react to things. Is this something you're desperate for in your Meta existence, Chris?
What's this Meta existence you talk of?
Well, I know how keen you are on social media, so I think it's worth bringing it up every so often.
I'm not surprised they're doing this. I'm surprised it's taken them so long. You'd have thought they were doing all right for money. I thought they were doing this because in Europe they have to allow you a way to disable ads and stuff, but maybe I'm misremembering. But there's no mention of ads in this article, so I'm not sure about that. But also, I can't imagine $4 a month is going to get them enough income to replace the gargantuan amounts they get from adverts. So I'm not surprised they're doing it. Like I say, everybody's doing this kind of thing, aren't they now? We've had like the golden era where you had low subscriptions and not many ads. Now everybody like Netflix is having so many tiers of membership. Who's going to be the first company to do the plus plus club, where you're paying like Uber money to get in the door? So yeah, not surprised. It feels like rolling out to everything. The fact they're doing Meta 1, why can't people come up with their own naming conventions? That would be my one bit of feedback.
I think because consumers get behind it, they become familiar with that kind of stuff, right?
Maybe. But they seem to be following largely Apple's lead on a lot of companies seem to follow Apple's lead on naming. I don't think Apple always do a good job of naming stuff.
No, I'd agree with that. I don't think they do the best job either. The Apple Max, is certainly one that stands out there. Or
the Apple One, where there's like 5 different ranges of Apple One that you can get.
Yeah, or Apple TV on your Apple TV and the Apple TV app. I agree with you. They're not the best at naming things. And actually, I haven't put it in the show notes, but we probably should put it there. Is that Meta are doing this, but there's a rumor that Apple are going to do something similar as well when they're going to start tiering the music plan too. So there's something to look forward to. Spotify do a tiered plan. YouTube do a tiered plan. Why wouldn't Apple do a tiered plan?
Yay.
I can tell how enthusiastic you are for that.
I think I'm just getting frustrated that everybody's trying to nickel and dime for everything. I'd rather just, I do pay for Apple Music. I pay one amount. My family get it. It's simple. Why do we have to make it more complicated?
Yeah, I think because adverts, right?
Oh, Apple, stop it. They don't need to sully their platforms with adverts.
It is interesting though, isn't it? We just finished talking about the freedom that Linux will give you potentially in the future, and then we're growing ever higher walled gardens in the platforms we are used to. And I genuinely, I think the pair of us are going to become like old man shouts at cloud, because I know you're sort of moving towards a more offline music existence, and and I'm continually pushing forward trying to put Linux in more parts of my life. So it's a very strange world.
It is a strange time, isn't it? I think. I've got my offline music now and quite happy with it. I would cancel my Apple Music subscription if I didn't have a family. But seeing as my family do get quite a bit of use from it, I'm skeptical to cancel it right now. Yeah,
I'm in a similar situation with both my kids at university. I think that they do certainly appreciate having the bits and pieces that Apple subscription gives them. However, for myself, I don't use any of the online storage particularly. I very rarely listen to Apple Music streamed. I do use Apple TV. That is true. I do use Apple TV. But the rest of it, I'm neither here nor there on it. I don't need the photo backup. I've rolled my own, but this is something I have no interest in. I don't want. One of the joys of streaming music has been getting away from adverts. If you ever listen to commercial radio in the UK, I can't believe any other country is different. The amount of adverts you get, it feels like every 4 minutes, is just off the charts. And that freedom from that, and being able to listen whatever you wanted to, obviously, was certainly the appeal of music. But it's not cheap. If you go for just Apple Music streaming, I feel like it's 16 or 18 quid.
Yeah, something like that. It's getting quite pricey.
I do know it's 36 or 39 a month for the full Apple One subscription, though, which is not nothing.
No, it is not nothing. That is the thing. I think it is getting, it's getting pricey quickly.
It is. Coming back to something you were talking about a few weeks ago, you were saying, where are all these promised things thought we were going to get in the car with CarPlay and iOS 26, like being able to watch videos and all that kind of stuff. The cool future we had planned, if the handbrake was on in your car, you could maybe watch Apple TV or something on there. We haven't quite got that yet, but what we have got is you can have lyrics come up and sing along if you want to while you're in your car. Is that something you desperately want while you're driving?
Is this while you're driving? No. Like, why? Like, surely this is illegal. Like having, like, you're listening to a tune and the lyrics are coming up whilst you're driving and the driver can see it. Like, this isn't right.
I don't think this is right at all. Apparently, you've got to have this service called Music Match. It's not built into an Apple service. The app is free, but you need a Music Match premium subscription for $35.99 a year, just so you can potentially crash your car while you're singing some karaoke lyrics. Yay!
I don't get this at all. I'm sorry. I thought Apple were too slow to do some things, but now we seem to be going the polar opposite way, and we're trying to over allow things to appear on that screen. I don't think this is right.
I find this super weird. I really do. The company that was so careful about what they would allow there, and now you've got this, it's wrong.
I completely agree.
Okay, on that bombshell, should we do some news?
Go on then, let's do the news. Hang on, before we do the news, where is the ability for me, I've got the handbrake on, to put a video onto my screen in my car? That was the thing, but it doesn't ever seem to have happened.
No, it doesn't. I had this.
It was rumoured to be coming in one of the betas recently, but
no, it's just never happened, has it? I had this in my Tesla 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I could do YouTube, I could do Netflix, I could do Disney Plus, or anything in a web browser when the car was stopped. And it was perfectly safe. I didn't mind that at all. It's really useful when you're charging an EV that you can do that. In fact, the Volvo did it too. I'm sure your BMW did.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
I just think that's good tech. Like, I'm not driving, let me use that screen in my car. And obviously a lot of cars got amazing screens. And then here we are, allowing lyrics. Sorry, just crazy. Anyway, should we move on? That's probably one feature they have announced at WWDC that hasn't shipped.
Oh, there's quite a lot of them. Well, let's talk about Apple Intelligence in the main show.
Okay.
Moving on, and I know you love the odd health story, Chris. I particularly do, because it's mostly what I do for a living. But this is just a really interesting clinical trial that I found that sort of stood out to me. So, as featured on Ars Technica, it's a gene editing therapy, which we don't have that many of at this point, but this is sort of getting into the realms of personalized medicine. Anyway, it's part of a phase 1 trial. For those that don't know, clinical trials take part in 3 phases. You have animal testing, and then it goes to humans. Phase 1 is generally among healthier volunteers. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then should all that be successful and everybody's happy, it can go out to general release if it's accepted by the regulator in your country, and it can then be prescribed by your doctor, general practitioner, whatever the particular thing is that need to be prescribed. Cholesterol is bad. We all know that there's a particularly bad type of cholesterol called LDL, low density lipoprotein cholesterol, which things like statins have taken up till now to reduce things. If you've got high cholesterol, you're at more risk of stroke, heart attacks, things like that, combined with high blood pressure. So anything that can drop that is a good thing. Lots of people get issues with statins. This particular trial showed a 62% drop in people's LDL. In just one dose as well, and that sort of persisted beyond 3 months. So I just think this is really fascinating. We're getting to the point in medicine where you might be able to take a pill to almost fix anything. You got a pill that stops you being fat, or at least an injection that stops you being fat. You got something else that will drop your cholesterol fairly dramatically. And I saw another thing about a potential vaccination for some types of cancer this month. So I just think it's phenomenal where we've got to. At a point where the biggest research funder of healthcare, the American Health Research Institutes, are being slashed by what's going on in America at the moment. And I think that dichotomy is really interesting, where you've got stuff like this going on, which is incredibly important for the long-term healthcare of the human race. facing off against actually we don't believe in any of this stuff and we're just going to stop it. And it's the dichotomy really gets to me.
So this sounds quite good. I do worry we're going to open a world where, I don't know, 20 years from now, you have a meal and you basically take a pill afterwards to counterbalance the meal you've just had or the ice cream or whatever it may be. I mean, I don't think I have high cholesterol, but I don't know. I'd like to think not, but you just don't know sometimes, do you? You said all of us know that LDL is like the most popular one. I did not know that. So you've got to remember some of us aren't in your world.
Yeah, all right, sorry. Assumptions kill. They absolutely do. Basically, it's the stuff you get in ultra-high processed foods, which a lot of vegetarian and vegan stuff is actually ultra-high processed, despite the fact people think it's very good for you, depending on where it comes from. And bacon, smoking makes it worse, all that kind of stuff, high blood pressure. So there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, and most of us, because of our diets, in the Western world particularly, suffer from very high cholesterol. So I think this is only a good thing.
Yeah, no, look, completely agree. It sounds like quite a breakthrough. Let's hope the trials carry on and it's successful.
It's only 35 people. It's a very small trial at this point, but the idea is it moves on and you accrue more people. Because one of the other things you want to do with all these things is, A, it may not be cost effective for the pharmaceutical companies developing it. They throw a lot of money at these things. And B, you might find some horrendous side effect of the drug that could, cause you never-ending liver damage or something like that. Obviously, that's not something that's been declared as part of a phase 1 trial, but that's the point of clinical trials, is you have them go for numbers of years so you can see what else is going on with potential side effects. If you look at a drug like thalidomide, for example, which you may know nothing about, but I think it was designed for reducing morning sickness and things like that in pregnancy. But obviously, it had catastrophic effects to the children that were born as a consequence of being on thalidomide. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it's. I'll leave listeners and viewers to look that up themselves. But the children of thalidomide suffered in quite a fairly serious way. I think that's probably enough for my healthcare stuff. Do you want to tell us about Apple's acquisition? That's probably a more cheerful tech story.
There's probably more in my warehouse. Yeah, so Apple, believe it or not, bought another company. Now, Apple do buy a lot of companies, don't they, in a year? Not many of them get reported on. And they've basically bought a small company here that has got a color grading tool. So this is something I'm not that excited about, but obviously color grading is done in photos and in video. So you can see why Apple might want it. They've also got their creative suite or creative studio that you're showing the icons for. And I don't mind the icons on their own, but when you see all the icons together, but yeah, look, it makes sense, right? So they've basically bought color.io, and it's going to be rolled into Apple. What that will look like, it's hard to know. I mean, like I say, Apple buy a lot of companies, and obviously it's in their playbook. So, I don't think it's going to change my world necessarily, unless they've got something for end users, or is this just going to be a pro-only tool? I don't know.
I think this is probably a good acquisition. Color management is really important. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit the podcast. It has very good color management built in, none of which I understand how to use. So I think something that can make that a little bit easier, or for people who know what they're doing, to be able to color grade properly inside a Final Cut Pro or Pixelmator Pro or whatever the particular app that this would end up going into, I think it's really important. As I look at these icons, I'm bewildered by this package the more I look at it, because the distinction between what the free elements are, Keynote, Pages, Numbers, Freeform, and what the paid elements are, Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Pixelmator Pro, Motion Compressor, and Mainstage, I'm a bit like, do these things really belong together?
Well, I don't know, but I guess it's better than having multiple subscriptions. I don't know. Could they have done, if they're going to have a subscription, would they got it right anyway? But look, they're bolstering it, so hopefully you're going to carry on paying the amount you pay, and they will add more things to it. Like hopefully Pixelmator Photo will come, and this Color.io acquisition that they've done, just acquired for grading. Maybe it won't be an app on its own, but it'll be get built in. So hopefully they're going to have a renewed effort to, invest time and energy into these apps. But I'm skeptical.
I am too, and I won't get into it. I struggle a little bit. As I look at some of these apps, and I use certainly Logic Pro fairly heavily to edit this podcast. Nowhere near to its ability. You can, make very serious music with Logic Pro. But it's an app I vaguely understand. I used to be quite good with Final Cut Pro. You're pretty good with Pixelmator Pro. But Keynote, Pages, and Numbers, I'd say I'm fairly expert at those apps, because they're very similar to other things that I'm used to using. And whenever I've tried to use Keynote since this, all the AI stuff baked into it just does not make for a nice experience for me.
Yeah, it's the problem, isn't it? When Apple get too pushy on things, they cross a boundary.
And that boundary between AI and what you pay for that, you almost feel like they're trying to justify their investment in all the AI stuff. But anyway, again, maybe we'll come to that later. Let's talk about Microsoft, because that's always fun.
Yay, Microsoft.
This is a really weird story that there's a zero-day hunter. So this is a hacker who goes and finds vulnerabilities in code, so they don't become zero-day exploits. So, the second that they're released, that they're already being actively exploited by various hacking groups or an LLM or whatever finds bugs these days. These people are really important to companies like Microsoft, Apple, the Linux kernel, all the rest of it, so they can patch vulnerabilities before they hit the wider world. Microsoft seem to have fallen out really, really badly with this guy called Nightmare Eclipse, also called Chaotic Eclipse, who they aren't disclosing if he used to be an ex-Microsoft employee, but he's found lots and lots of potential really nasty zero-day exploits for Windows over the years. And typically, companies have paid for severe level exploits. If a bug finder finds them and they can patch it before it's released, then there's a certain amount of money returns to the person, depending on the severity of the bug. Anyway, they've had a very public falling out with this Chaotic Nightmare guy about this, with Chaotic Nightmare saying he's going to publish something on the 14th of June that will be catastrophic, effectively, for Microsoft. And Microsoft sort of pushing back against it in a fairly petty way, if you read this article from the Register. So I don't know if you had any thoughts about this sort of public falling out.
It's a strange way of doing business, isn't it? When you push the public button, I think, and then it's really tricky. Then I think to get to a good place because you're doing it in public, and obviously what Microsoft don't want to do is set a precedent that look, if you do something in public, we're gonna bow to whatever you need, because then obviously it sets a precedent for other people doing something similar. We're obviously seeing lots more vulnerabilities being exposed, as we've discussed with some of the advent of AI. I mean, this person's obviously very clever. If he's a zero-day bug hunter, that is a skill, like a really good skill. So he's obviously very talented. But yeah, I don't know how Microsoft win this one back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, when he's saying things like, I actively communicate you refused to humiliate you, made sure to insult me in front of people, you defame me in public with this particular bug, even though you literally deleted the Microsoft account you report bugs to you, and I got 0 pennies from doing so, and I still happily did like an idiot. Mark this date, July 14th, I will make sure your bones are shattered that day. Wow. I mean, that's pretty inflammatory speech, really. Yeah,
it's not good, is it? Why July 14th, do we think?
Maybe there's some sort of thing runs out, or it's a time. I genuinely don't know. And will it be as big as he says it is? Who knows? But having a public falling out with people who are actively working in your favour just seems like the worst possible PR on all sides.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I guess they don't know what he's potentially got, and so where'd you go with this? So it's a really tricky one.
It is a tricky one. Should we talk about some DuckDuckGo action?
Yes, my favourite search engine. Used it for probably the last 10 years, give or take.
So, but have you used this particular noai.duckduckgo.com URL?
No, I haven't. I didn't know about this until you put it in the show notes.
Well, this is it, Chris. I aim to be a helpful little person at the best of times. So, apparently, DuckDuckGo have seen a bit of an explosion in the tens of percent digits to their search engine ever since the last Google I/O we talked about, where everything was sort of very Gemini. They were pushing Gemini really, really hard. Anyway, DuckDuckGo have got this page, noai.duckduckgo.com, where they've switched off AI-assisted answers and switched off AI-generated images. So you can search and just get what used to be bog standard web search results back. And I just think that's really interesting, isn't it? That you do see these backlashes of people pushing back against the LLM future that our overlords wishes to have.
Yeah, so I haven't used this, and this is just what DuckDuckGo looked like circa 2 years ago. I quite like where you do have what they call search assist, and it usually goes. So I just typed in, "How do I mute Teams on the Mac?" for example, and the AI has gone. There's a shortcut. It's Command-Shift-M, done. Whereas if you do the no AI version, that's not there, and then you've just got a bunch of articles to trawl through. So I quite like the AI piece on it. So that's just me, but I can understand why some people don't like that, and maybe the no AI version is coming through. But I did not know no AI was the thing.
I quite like it. I quite like the fact that there is an option for people, and it's quite smart by DuckDuckGo to actually offer that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, they've read the room, haven't they? Oh, look, there's an opportunity here for market share for people that don't want all of this stuff. So why wouldn't they do it? So it feels like a no-brainer.
So I've been trying to use Quant for a while, which is a European alternative to these things. And it's interesting, if you type how to mute, the very first thing you get offered is how to mute Teams notifications. So that's obviously a real problem for people.
That's because most people have to do work in Teams. Maybe they don't want it popping up all the time.
And just to show Quant off, the very first thing is a Microsoft support article for how to mute notifications during a Microsoft Teams notification. So that's not a bad search, actually.
Yeah, so what makes Quant different to DuckDuckGo?
It's European, and I'm trying to support
That's it.
That's
okay, fair enough.
I think it's a reasonable thing. Having said all that, I do like the fact that DuckDuckGo are offering this noai.duckduckgo.com. I think it's a good, healthy, strong alternative. I will also caveat that by saying, yeah, I've used the odd LLM thing because it is quite handy for searching for things specifically related to computer technical or coding issues. Less so for other things, but I'm okay with that.
I think there's a balance to be had. We don't want AI taking over the world. We don't want AI replacing artists. But I think there is a world where you can use AI to help you get your work done. I think there's a balance to be had.
I think that's fair. Should we do some media?
Media. Yeah, go on then. What's the media?
I notice you haven't added anything to the list, Chris, so I'm thinking you've had a busy week.
I think I've added the last film on the list.
Oh, you've added. Oh, you have. Okay, yeah. All right, that's the Taron Egerton one, isn't it? Yep. So this is Rivals. The second season, I think, is back or is coming back very, very shortly, June the 5th, possibly. It's a Disney Plus show which stars David Tennant and the guy that played Paul Darkin. My brain has just gone blank. If I scroll down this page, it will tell me. It's based on a Jilly Cooper, Aidan Turner. That's what I'm thinking of, and Catherine Parkinson from the IT Crowd. I resisted watching it for a long time, and I thought I didn't have a lot to watch the other night, so I'd watched the first episode of season 1. I hadn't watched it previously. It's very much a set in the 80s romp with a bit of light political jabs in there. Far more sex than you might expect in something like this, but it is Jilly Cooper, so that probably shouldn't surprise me. David Tennant and all the actors actually are knocking it out of the park, actually. It's a lot of fun, I think. So if you want something a little, I'm going to use this word deliberately, bawdy, I think it's got a promising start. I will keep watching it, watch a couple more episodes. I don't think there's that much of it, but David Tennant's always very watchable. And the critics gave this 96%.
I mean, 96 is very good, right?
Yeah.
For me, I was aware of it. I assumed it wasn't going to be my bag, so I haven't bothered to watch it. But actually, some of it is actually filmed quite near me over here in the Cotswolds, so I was a little keen in some ways just to maybe take a look for some locations that I will have seen. But I haven't felt the urge just yet. I think there's quite a lot of the world I haven't watched yet.
Well, this becomes obvious every week we talk about these things. But yeah, the Cotswolds feature large in this, it must be said.
Yeah, so that'd be the only reason I'd probably watch it, but I'm not fussed about whatever story that they've come up with.
Fair enough. Moving on, it was the For All Mankind season finale, so this is the end of season 5. Quite a good ending, still better liked by critics than by the fans, I think. It has got weaker, I talked about this last week as it's gone on, but a good solid ending. I think I'm just I'm involved now because I've followed it for as long as it was. If season 1 had been season 5, I don't think it would have captured me in the same way. So it's there, it's a thing. If you like For All Mankind, I'd say, yeah, watch season 5, it's fine.
It's fine. That's a glowing reference.
Well, I mean, to sort of really put it in perspective, Apple TV, in a marvel of scheduling, actually, launched the spin-off show, which is called Star City, on the same day of the finale. And they dropped
that is genius, isn't it?
That's brilliant. And watching this makes you realise how good season 1 of For All Mankind was. This Star City is a very different show. It's clearly set in the same universe, in the fact that the Russians get to the moon first, but it shows the story again, but from their perspective, not the American one. And it's terrific. And Risa fans particularly, as well as Anna Maxwell Martin, who always plays an amazing bad girl, are just terrific in this. It's good. If you've any interest, and it's got that sort of more sort of Russian paranoid KGB things are afoot take that you'd expect. What it puts me in mind of most of all is Chernobyl. If you like Chernobyl with that sort of, a very British take, well, certainly with British accents using British actors, of that sort of period of Russian history, it's absolutely got that nailed down, and I really like it for that.
I think this appeals to me possibly more than Series 5 of For All Mankind, if I'm being honest. Like, the take sounds good, and if you're liking it, like I say, to Chernobyl, then I'd probably be up for watching this.
And to finish off, you watched a thing. You watched Apex.
I did watch Apex, and this is on Netflix. It's got a 66% reviewer rating and 46 viewer rating, so not great. I quite like the concept of this. So this is, I'm waiting for you to scroll down so I can see the lady's name, because Charlie Theron, her character, her husband dies in a crazy mountaineering accident at the start. She's off to Australia on her own. She's going like right off the beaten track. She bumps into Taron Egerton's character at the petrol station kind of thing, and this is all in the trailer. And then she's off camping. He basically tracks her down, and this is in the trailer, she just tells her to run for it, and he's going to come and get her, basically. He's stolen lots of her equipment and stuff, and so that's kind of how it starts. And it gets a bit gruesome in places, I'll be honest, but I was really looking forward to it. But actually, I don't think they quite landed the ending. It was quite obvious what was happening. It was a little disappointing, sadly, to be honest, if I'm honest. But I was quite looking forward to it. So I probably don't disagree with the viewer ratings of circa 50%. That would be fair, I think. But I won't be rushing to watch it again, sadly. And I had high hopes.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for this, and I was a bit like, I don't get it. And I like Taron Egerton. I love Charlize Theron. Mad Max Fury Road is one of my favourite films. It's certainly my top 5. And her performance in that is incredible. Also, I noticed it's got Eric Bana in it, who I've got a lot of time for as well.
Don't get too attached.
Well, I'm not going to, but once upon a time, he was Incredible Hulk, wasn't he? Yeah.
I like Eric Bana as well, Munich. He's fantastic. But it started off well. I thought the premise was quite cool, but I was just disappointed with how they landed it, if I'm being honest. And a good pace at the start of the film, I thought, to be fair, but the second half just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, not really for me. And that's it for media. Games?
Games, come on then.
Don't have a lot to say. Other than, and I know you'll be excited for this, Chris, Call of Duty is going to be back in October with another version. I'm sure that surprises all of us.
No, as a surprise to nobody. It's like FIFA, isn't it, or whatever they call it now, FC. It's guaranteed to come around. The graphics look insane on this trailer that Rod, you're currently playing, which is on YouTube, but it looks very, very sharp, doesn't it?
It does. So this is a part of the story that hasn't been told before. We've basically had remakes of the Modern Warfare series up to this point. They're going in a new direction. They're sort of going on from where Modern Warfare 3 happened before. It's crazy. We've had 2 Modern Warfare 2s, 2 Modern Warfare 1s. I think Modern Warfare 3 was a reimagining of something happened before, and now Modern Warfare 4, the first time, is out again. So you know what you're getting with a Call of Duty game. I think they dropped the ball with Black Ops 7. They lost lots of gamers to Battlefield, so this will be interesting to see if they manage to sort of win those back and get a bit of the zeitgeist back around the brand. This is kind of the way these things go. There's 2 big shooters in the world. There's Battlefield and there's Call of Duty, and there's sort of seesaws between them. But I agree with you. The trailer looks good. There's some new movement mechanics in the game as well. It looks a bit more like Parkour, and you see the soldiers actually running around the maps and things like that, the sort of mantling, and they can slide and lie on their backs and still look around and do all sorts of things like that. So they're bringing a few new things to it as well, but I guess we'll see how this goes and whether they manage to drag me back in October.
And is there a single-player campaign, or is it all multiplayer?
I don't know the answer to that. The last couple of games, there have been single-player campaigns. They've kept that going.
It's quite a small part, though, isn't it?
They do a better job of it than Battlefield, for sure.
Right, okay. Because I always quite like the single-player campaigns.
Yeah, I think you'd probably quite like it. I mean, when they remade Modern Warfare 2, it was the same Modern Warfare 2 campaign from whatever it was 15 years previously.
Okay.
But with modern graphics and all the new affordances. I don't like that word. Affordances for all the bits and pieces for the players within that as the new mechanics had come along. But I guess we'll see. Probably. I mean, the fact that all this stuff, which is set in, it looks like Korea, where the next one of this is going to be set, they wouldn't bother generating all these graphics unless there was going to be a single-player campaign. So I think it's going to come.
Yeah, I used to like I say, like a campaign. I quite enjoy that sort of campaign bit of it rather than multiplayer.
Yep, I think that's fair. And last but not least, Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown, which is a game I bought about 6 months ago. Haven't a lot of time to go back and play. They released a major patch to it to bring in a whole bunch of sort of graphical tweaks as performance upgrades, as well as a bit of DLC in terms of new features for the ship, shuttlecraft and all sorts of things that weren't particularly there when the game launched. It's very much a base building simulator set within the Star Trek universe. I played about an hour of it yesterday, I think. I actually had a bit of time, and it's good. It's almost exactly what you'd want from a Star Trek game, I think. A bit of in-space combat, a bit of base building from your ship, some crew management, and sort of RPG elements for building up your crew and their experience and all the rest of it. Yeah, not bad. I'll probably go and spend another hour on it today.
I could get behind a bit of base building, but I've never been into Star Trek, so it's probably a little lost on me.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think if you want the Star Trek adds a lot to it. I think it'd be very generic unless you didn't recognize the characters and the situations and what was going on there. So maybe one's for the Star Trek fans only.
Yeah, it looks good though.
Yeah, it's pretty and it's interesting. I run it in Crossover Office on my Mac, so it's a Windows-only game. But I fire up Crossover Office and I install the Steam Windows version on my Mac, and it plays flawlessly.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's just in case you'd forgotten, Crossover Office will let you run many Windows games that were designed for the Mac, including big titles like Satisfactory that we've talked about before.
I did not know that.
My little M4 Mac Mini does a fine job of playing Windows games.
The M4 Mac Mini, what a machine!
What a machine! Main show.
Go on then. Let's do the main show.
So, in preamble to this, Chris and I only realised we're about 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, something like that to WWDC. It's a week tomorrow. Yeah, so Monday after next is WWDC. So we're not going to have a show out between here and there. So we thought we would just have a little predictions, what's coming, what are we looking forward to, what aren't we looking forward to in WWDC. And this is all sort of triggered by an article that neither Chris nor I have access to, which is Mark Gurman's Bloomberg article on what's going to be new coming in WWDC. So it's just to say that's there. A lot of the links will be there. So if you're keen on getting that kind of news, then you should probably go and subscribe to Bloomberg and get all your news directly from Mark Gurman. But we're going to go from some of his rumors, yeah?
Yeah, that'd be good. I was just looking for an article where there are some. I've seen the screenshots somewhere and I couldn't remember where it was. So I was just looking for that. But basically, the big news that's leaked is really that Siri is going to be amazeballs. let's put that as a stake in the ground. Siri's going to be re-engineered. It's going to have, the new back end that, links into Google Gemini. And that's kind of what we're expecting, that the whole Siri bit's way cleverer. Apple Intelligence has some intelligence that it didn't have before. And I think that's like the two big things that we're expected to see. Is that fair?
Yeah. Can I start by saying how disappointing that is, really? Because we started talking about Apple Intelligence and smarter Siri in 2024. I'm right in saying that.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, they said Siri is going to be smarter. We've given it a whole new animation. It's going to be able to do things like know when your mum is landing on her flight into San Francisco and tell you when to leave for the airport and pick her up some flowers on the way and do some all manner of very clever things, all of which was vaporware. Everything they did, and they failed to deliver almost everything from that WWDC because it was all AI based. There was a snapshot of visual intelligence, which is going to tell you what sort of dog you were looking at if you had an iPhone 15 or higher.
15 Pro or high, maybe, I think.
There was going to be this incredibly smart Siri that was going to be more flexible and would have Apple Intelligence built into it to do X, Y, and Z. If you asked it how to switch off a setting on your iPhone or how to, install an eSIM or something like that, it would be able to tell you that. And it would have this deep context about what was going on. And there was adverts put out about this as well with Maisie, is it Evans? I forget her name. No, Maisie Evans, a comedian. The actress that played Bella Ramsey in Game of Thrones, whose name is escaping me. She was also in the thing with, oh my gosh, Pedro Pascal, The Last of Us. She was in The Last of Us as well, saying, I don't remember who this guy is in the room, and Siri reminding her, this was this person you met at a meeting 3 weeks ago. And none of that happened. And it's probably the most disappointing WWDC of all time. In fact, as we were going through the betas, you and I were saying nothing has changed in iOS since the year before. It's just this Apple Intelligence stuff. And my reason for recounting all this is I'm deeply concerned that we're about to get the same again. Yes, they might be using Google's model or ChatGPT's model or Gemini or Anthropic's model this time. Google's model is what it will be. But they once promised and didn't just under-deliver, they didn't deliver. And I think this is a real problem for Apple, that if they do this again, once bitten, twice shy, people will leave, because much as I don't like it, Android are absolutely marching ahead when it comes to integration of AI into the phone.
Yeah, agreed. I think the problem we had in 24 is Apple were just, they got caught short and they hurried to release something, which Apple don't normally do. They rushed to release something and they weren't ready, and they showed us basically a load of videos that weren't actually, apps running. It was what they thought the apps were going to do and how they designed it. So they were chasing the dream, but they weren't ready for it, which is unlike Apple because they don't often do that. And then fast forward 2 years later, so they didn't really announce anything AI related last year. I mean, they just gave us the new design, which is good and bad. So you're right. I think there is a bit of, I guess, nervousness going into this. They've not leaked anything ahead of time, though, to say it's not going to deliver all of this. I'm curious to see where they go with it. I think the problem they've got is a lot of people are using AI models already. Are they going to care whether it's baked into the system? It's been a laughing joke for 10 years or more that Siri's just rubbish. Like my wife tried to set a timer early just to boil an egg and Siri couldn't do it. And it's just like they've got a lot of ground to cover if they're going to start to want to get people back to Siri and get ChatGPT or insert other out of their hands. So I'm super curious to see where they go with it. Hopefully the devices we've all got for the last few years are going to be good enough, and that you're not going to need the latest and greatest, because that was a little frustrating that they were pushing people to have the latest devices. I don't know whether people did go and buy the latest devices because of a promise of what might come, but that's a tricky one, isn't it?
Well, there was a class action lawsuit in America that if you bought a device, you might be entitled to $25 or whatever, which they settled out of court, because I think if it had gone to court, they'd have lost. People bought phones based on promises for features that never arrived, and that is the most un-Apple thing.
Agreed.
And they lost a lot of trust, and we spent a fair bit of time talking about that. And if you look at the tools they delivered, what's it called? Image Playground.
Image Playground. They've delivered writing tools.
Let's not go past this. Image Playground was dreadful.
Oh yeah, it's just rubbish.
Yeah, you want to put a very stupid-looking AI filter over your friends wearing a hat. That's basically all Image Playground would give you.
Yeah, it had awful art styles. Yeah. It just wasn't good. I think you're meant to be able to draw in like notes, and it will put an image in and take your drawing, but that was woeful as well.
And even that was poorly received. Somebody, they had a beautiful hand-drawn representation of it was like a rotunda or a bandstand or something like that, and it made this horrible wireframe thing instead. So that was bad. We've already said how bad visual intelligence was. And the writing tools, I switch off, because something like a Grammarly, or frankly whatever's built into Word or LibreOffice, is better than the writing tools.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. So they've got a bit of a hill to climb, haven't they, to win, I think, people back around.
Yeah, and if you look at the promise of what Google have been offering inside the next generations of Android, where I can describe a widget and it will create that for me. So you want a widget that's going to count down to whenever the next Swansea Air Show is or something like that. Android is promising that they'll be able to do that kind of thing. Apple...
That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? That's the kind of practical thing that people actually want to be able to do, Remind me it's my friend's birthday, X, Y, and Z, 2 or 3 things. Or go to YouTube and download the audio of this particular, podcast that I'm listening to or something like that, so I can listen to offline. All of that kind of stuff seems to be being baked into Android. So Apple need to come out of the gate with these table stakes things that LLMs can do at this point. And they've always pushed the privacy angle for this. They should hopefully continue to do so. But they have got a lot of context. Most of my life, except photographs, music, and everything as we just discussed, has been on Apple devices for, 30 years at this point, something like that. They should be really good at being able to tie all this stuff together. Even if it is a bit creepy, they should at least be able to offer that. And I'm concerned that just making a slightly better chatbot or a slightly smarter Siri that can set an egg timer isn't even scratching the surface of what a company like Apple should be capable of. There is the distinction, people may not want it, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they phrase it, how they have baked it into the OS, how accessible is it going to be, because I don't know about you, but every now and again I catch something on my phone and I'm like, how do I end up in the type to Siri mode? I don't want that. So I am looking forward to WWDC, because I always like it when we get new stuff. So I think that's good. I really want to know what they do with the AI stuff, but also part of me thinks, actually, if all the AI stuff is rubbish, it actually won't really impact me. Not as much as the visual design did, because obviously that impacts all the OSs I use, whereas this I can probably just turn off if I don't like it.
Yeah, well, Maybe. Depends how baked in it is. Let's talk about whether we're installing the betas or not in a minute. So, according to this Mac Rumors article, which seems to have a lot of the sort of things that we're leading up to within this, there's also going to be iPhone Fold optimizations. I'm not that bothered about that. I guess all we'll see are some clues that there's a lot more independence to screen sizes or something like that. I mean, that's...
Yeah, or running multiple apps at once, because obviously if you open up the iPhone Fold and it's going to have, or we should call it the iPhone Ultra, I'm curious to see what they do there, but I wonder how much they actually signpost or how much they've just dealt with in the background so they don't let on. But it feels like everybody knows it's coming, but I'm not sure I live in a world where I'm going to be buying an iPhone Fold.
No, who can afford that? But I guess we'll see. I mean, there is next talk about new app features such as the camera. The camera is probably the app that needs a bit of attention the most, as far as I'm concerned, because they've idiotified it. They've made it far more simple than it should be. I think they've hidden a lot of the. When you fire up camera now, particularly if you've got a phone that gives you a camera button, and you see two buttons on the bottom, video or phone, that's too minimal. And this is a lot of my problem with Liquid Glass, is it's too minimal.
I think you mean video or photo. I always wanted them to do like a Camera Pro because it felt like they should separate out now. And some people just want that. They just want to open the camera, let it do all the cleverness, get it. Sometimes you want to tweak it, but they hide so much stuff and it's infuriating. So I'm curious to see where they go with some of this. I'm looking forward to hopefully, better app, because we've got some amazing cameras on these iPhones. But like you're right, you open the camera app and there's not a lot of control there. And I get so confused with what's what anymore. So I do find that a lot with the whole of iOS 26 of how many screens do I end up with? Do I need to push that back arrow or that cross up there or that tick over there? Because it's just, the OS just isn't as obvious as it once was.
I mean, simple things like cropping photos. There's several pushes deep in the UI to find where, and it's quite a normal thing you do. You want to crop someone out. That's a normal thing. The live photos, when you take one and the keyframe it picks is bad, finding your way to the interface to move it to a better keyframe is ridiculously hard. So there's some fairly basic fundamental things that abstract away from features that should be fundamental to some of the things that Apple has been doing for years. And that's not getting into Google's camera app, if you use it on a Pixel, can do things like, I'll take the picture, you'll come over and stand and take a picture of me, and we'll put us together as if we were both in the same picture. You know,
that's quite cool.
Which is really cool. It's AI generated and all the rest of it, but it is actually using two pictures to put you all in one image together. Stuff like that, that's genuinely useful. I don't want to make it look like I'm, shooting a basketball because I'm 7 feet tall, but things like that, where you are trying to get a group photo and one of you can never be in the photo, were genuinely useful. So that's AI features that would be sensible to build into it. Never mind just the UI that I think Liquid Glass has cost us for apps like Camera.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So anything they do on the camera's got to be good. And they obviously, we reported on it a while ago, there was talk of them, they've just recently employed the Halide engineer and stuff. So, and apparently they were trying to buy Halide. So, hopefully they really are going to put something behind it.
Yeah, I hope so too. So that's improved apps. They're also saying, visual intelligence, we don't need any of that. AI editing features, great.
Have you ever seen anybody use visual intelligence?
Once you told me how to switch it off, I hope to never see it again.
I'm not sure. Like my kids have got it on my partner, and I'm like, have they ever used it? I don't think they know what it is.
Why would you? You can ask the owner what breed of dog it is. You don't need to take a picture of it.
I concur with that statement.
And wouldn't most people? There's still the little I button you can press in the photograph to tell you what's in there anyway. Why do you need to launch visual intelligence?
I always get annoyed when I go into visual intelligence. I'm like, how do I get back out? How do I just go back to the normal camera?
I don't want to be here. Performance and stability, they're saying that we may get a snow leopard year this year. I mean, that just makes me think that they haven't got a lot to announce because they've been focusing on AI stuff.
If they, and I've said it before, I think if they tweaked every app and just improved the interface, cleaned up bugs. But what worries me is they don't have full-time people on every app. Like some of these apps would be better if it was a solo developer that owned the app. Take, maybe not reminders, but take the clock app. The clock app looks really dated, right? Like if a solo person ran that app, it would probably look way better and be way more refined. So I'm hoping they are doing lots of that. And obviously there's also talk of just general app improvements and Liquid Glass refinements. Now we're a year into Liquid Glass, so I'm super curious to see where they go with all of that refinements. I always like having a little play when it comes up.
Yeah. So, also in the show notes are some more Mac Rumors articles about what the leaked Siri may look like. I got to say, if this is the interface, Liquid Glass is not looking any better in these sort of leaks.
No, but if you look at the Siri app on on all those shots, it just looks like any other iOS app now. All the iOS apps all look the same, where we've gone so far away from skeuomorphism now. Everything's either a black or a white app, and it's just content. Like there's no personality anymore, and it's a real shame.
I do understand breaking Siri out into its own app because it probably means they can update it independently of the operating system with better smarts, which it really needs.
They won't, though, will they? It will still be an OS-tied app. But they should break out into its own app. It'll be more discoverable. There'll be an icon for people. It does make sense.
It does make sense. One of the things that may form part of the next version of of iOS and others is an anti-snatching feature. This is something that Android has had for, I think 2 years at this point. So if there's a sudden acceleration to your phone, it will automatically lock and that kind of stuff, which, given the rash of iPhone thefts we've got in London particularly at the moment, is only a good thing.
Yeah, anything they can do on anti-snatching, anti-theft, whatever you call it, it's got to be good, right? And they have been doing stuff in this area, so that is really good to see.
Yeah, so that's a genuine, useful operating system feature that, again, we should have had a couple of years ago, because I've heard stories of phones, of Android phones being nicked by thieves and then bringing them back because they don't want an Android phone, they want an iPhone.
Also, why can't they why do they leave this stuff for a big OS update? Why can't they just drop it into the next version of iOS 26 kind of thing? They do seem to hold some stuff back.
Exactly. You think we've had accelerometers that would be sensitive to this stuff, and phones going back to, I don't know, certainly the iPhone 10 had incredibly sensitive accelerometers. You could put this all the way back.
Yep, no, I completely agree.
Yep. Other things that we might expect to see at WWDC is potentially some new products. I disagree with this rumor. We don't tend to get a lot of hardware at WWDC.
I think it's a complete mixed bag. 2019, you got a Mac Pro and a Studio Display. Sometimes I think we might have had a Mac Studio. We've had a HomePod before now. AirPower.
The famous shipping AirPower.
That's where we need to play the bong noise of AirPower. But I think it's possible. But given all the issues with RAM and everything, I'd be amazed if they ship a Mac Studio with the M5 or a Mac Mini with the M5. So I'd be super surprised.
I mean, I guess they need to, but I don't think they're going to do it at WWDC. It distracts from it, unless there is a story about how you actually need a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio with at least 128 gigs of RAM in order to run some local model or other on your, or they demonstrate why Macs are so good at developing, agentic AIs or something like that. That's why the benefits of silicon in the chip. But I agree with you. I think in the current climate, it's going to be really difficult for them to do that. However, we've got M5 iPads, so why not give us some M5 Macs?
True. Oh, well, we've got M5 laptops, haven't we? But we haven't got M5 desktops for some reason. So yeah, it's all a bit odd. It'd be nice if I don't mind if there's a bit of hardware, but I want them to have some amazing software, and that's all they need to talk about.
Yeah. All right. So we're definitely getting iOS, watchOS, tvOS, Mac OS, Wear OS. Is that all of them? I think that's all.
Keep going.
iPad OS.
No, keep going.
iPad OS. That's it. Vision OS. Yeah. Yeah.
You nearly there. I wonder if they're ever going to collapse any of these into each other.
Oh, they could put iOS and iPad OS together really easily if they've got a folding phone. Who'd have thought?
I completely agree with that. Do you think the Mac OS is going to look different because there's talk of it being touch friendly with new touch MacBook Pros coming out at some point in the next year?
I don't think they're going to mess with liquid glass very much. I think we might get some slight tweaks to make it a little more visible in places, but I think that's going to be it. I don't think they'll make an advertisement out of that. Let's talk about this hardware. So M5 Mac Studio and Mac Mini, we don't think are particularly likely. They are the most likely of all these products, I think, because it's it's a developer conference, so you want a desktop Mac of sufficient standard to do that on. We don't really have that on the desktop line at the moment. So that would be helpful. The M4 Mac Mini that you and I are on at the moment is one of the most up-to-date chips you can get, frankly.
But they're struggling to fulfill, aren't they, with the RAM and the different configs?
Yeah. There are rumours of new home products, so a new Apple TV, HomePod 3 and HomePod Mini 2. I do not care about HomePods at all, and an Apple TV, I'm not sure what the need is for that at the moment. It does everything, and unless you got 8K, there's not a great demand to have new Apple TVs. It does what it says in the tin.
Yeah, I'm searching. So I've got 4 Apple TVs in my house. They're all fine, and they're all a couple. The problem I struggle with is which one's which, but they're all fine. I kind of agree with you. Like, is there anything they're really going to do? Curious to see. I mean, they could always get quicker, right? That's probably the one thing I'd say. But other than that, I don't think I want much more from it.
I think most people are bound by how fast their stuff streams to the Apple TV than the Apple TV itself.
True. If you're local streaming, though, I guess maybe.
Yeah, but most people fire up Netflix or whatever, don't they?
True. That is fair. Like, there's probably not that many people that host stuff internally these days.
So I think there's a very slim chance of an M5 Max Studio. I don't think there'll be any other products.
I concur. Again, releasing like home stuff is a bit weird at WWDC. I don't know why they've did the HomePod there. It would make sense that comes out in the autumn with all the consumer-based stuff ready for Christmas and stockings and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So the last thing, which is a product that's almost certainly going to be announced, and I apologise for the disturbing advert. That I really need to turn my ad blocker back on. So here we go. This is an upcoming Beats headphone teased by some dude, Lamine Yamal. Is he a footballer or something?
No idea.
There we are. We're up with current events. Anyway, he's got a pink pair of Beats headphones, and that looks like a product that we missed. See, that's not a product. That's a colour.
Is it a product and a colour, though? Because is it a new product in a new colour, or is it just an old product in a new colour?
I don't know. Here's the disturbing advert, though. It's somebody brushing their toenail. That's great, isn't it? That's just what you want. That's exactly the kind of top-level advert I want from my media. Pharmacy top seller works on toenail fungus like a pressure washer. I don't know if I should feel targeted. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about the toenail fungus advert than I am about Pink's Beat headphones. That might show where my life has got to.
Yeah, probably concur with you. I'm not as fussed about the Beats headphones.
I mean, great. It's good that Beats continue to develop products. It seems to me that the headphones have been improving. Certainly the last in-ear ones got the H2 chips in them, didn't they? So they would pair better audio quality, all that kind of stuff. That's all good. I think keep it across the range. It's one of the few product lines I think Apple have done a reasonable job of keeping it alongside the main lines, in the sense that I think Beats headphones I see as many of them around out in the world as I do Apple headphones or Sony's or whatever. So Pink, people want new colors in their headphones. If there's some new features in here, then that's great. But yeah, I still don't know who Lamine Yamal is.
Agreed on all of that, and I do think Apple's Beats acquisition went really well for them. Obviously, we talked about acquisitions earlier on in the show, so it shows they can do a good job of it.
Absolutely. Tim Cook or John Turnus, who's going to be presenting this?
Tim Cook's got to start off. It's his last one.
So you think Tim starts, John finishes, or Tim begins and ends it?
I don't know. I think maybe Tim begins and ends, or maybe it starts with Tim and ends with Johnny as a reflection of the transition that's currently undergoing.
I think it's got to be a slightly tricky one for them. You want to pass on the torch, don't you? So I predict that apart from if there's hardware, it's only one thing, and we're going to get iOS 27, that there will be a sequence of them together, surely.
There's got to be something, because they've been warming the stock market up, right? They've done that. Now they're going to do the developer community. Most developers aren't a big Tim Cook fan, so it would make sense that they hand the baton over in a good way to John Turner. So I think it's going to be good.
I mean, John has been at a lot of these things in the past. He's obviously done quite a lot of the hardware when it's been there. He did the Mac Mini launch when it was relaunched with the M series chips in it as well. So he's been around a long time. I wonder, maybe they just have John and Tim at Apple and Cupertino rather than in the video, but I think it would be quite a good way for Tim to start, or maybe John to start saying he's going to be doing them from now on, and then Tim to finish off by going, that's it, I'm done, my last WWDC, see you guys. But I would like to see that virtual torch passing in some way. Yeah,
there's going to be a nod to it, isn't it? Because it's public knowledge now. I think that there will be something in there.
Yep. Anything else on WWDC?
What do you want to see them do? Is there anything you're looking forward to them to do?
I mean, I think it's been heavily implied as we've been talking. I'd like to see some genuine updates to the operating systems, particularly the Mac. I think the Mac is extremely disjointed at the moment. I think it's too many little bugs and errors. The thing that really got my goat was when I went to a new iPhone and search didn't work in settings. And the fact I had to go switch the language to US English and switch back out of it to get any sort of decent responsiveness, that is an unacceptable bug. And, there's lots of pauses and hitches and crashes and all sorts of things that just happen that shouldn't happen on new hardware. I'm not taxing very much. I'm not that high, impact user on a phone. I just want it to be switched on and be ready to get texts and make calls on pretty much. So Make it better, make it more reliable. I don't really care about new continuity features. I don't really care about iPhone mirroring. I don't want any of that stuff. But the Mac needs a good, solid nip and tuck, make the interface better, make it more cohesive, and just update everything. Have a look at Terminal, Apple. Give it an update. Take out chess. Nobody plays it. There's little things they could do right across the operating system. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a bit of consistency and reliability return to the platform, and a bit of care, not just lash a bunch of AI at us. What about you?
Probably something similar, but on the iPad. I think keep adding Mac features to the iPad. Keep like clamshell mode, please. Things like that. Bit of refinement on the windowing, on the liquid glass. So I'm curious to see where they go with that. If I'm being honest, I think, yeah, just like the iPad to continue getting a bit of love, but often it gets love one year and doesn't the next because they can't do year-on-year development. So curious to see if there's going to be even the mention of an iPad. So we see how it goes, because it is a smaller product. Or are they going to kill it because they're going to merge it in with the MacBook? But it doesn't feel like they're doing that. So I'm curious to see where it ends up. They sell a lot of iPads, to be fair. Like, they're in coffee shops. They're, with old people. They're with young people. There is a broad spectrum of users.
Yeah, I wonder if the Neo will take some of the shine off the iPad, though. It was, for many people, the entry into the Apple ecosystem was getting an iPad. I think a Neo would fix that for lots of people, and it's cheaper than many iPads.
No, the Neo makes nearly all iPads look expensive.
Yeah, it really does. I tell you what, I'll know when the iPad has made it, is when the Terminal app comes to the iPad.
Why don't they do that?
Oh, it makes it a pro device then, doesn't it? That's the problem.
Just put it in as an optional download. But do you know what I mean? If you want it, you go get it. Like, that's fine.
I 100% agree. There should be a toggle to turn it into developer mode, and it would give you full-on Xcode, and it would give you a terminal.
I wish there was a better coding solution for the iPad. I really do.
There you go. There's what you want from WWDC, a better coding solution for the iPad.
I'd just like to be able to dabble with the new stuff on my iPad.
Hey, Apple, let us run macOS on the iPad, please.
Even virtualized I'd go for.
But why not give us the ability to dual boot?
Yeah. You've done it with Windows. Why don't you do it with your own OSs?
Absolutely ridiculous. And if we're getting a touchscreen Mac at some point this year or next year, we're going to be there anyway.
Yeah. Especially now the hardware is converged into the same thing.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. App of the week.
Do it.
So my app of the week this week is called Moonfin. I talked last week about Plex updating its Plex Pass to $750 a year. I think it's pushed a lot of attention back towards alternatives to Plex if you do stream your own media or you want to manage your own media around the house. So Jellyfin clients. Jellyfin is the alternative to Plex, the open free and open source one. It's a really good project, actually. You can tweak it to be as good as Plex in many ways, although it's still missing a few little bits and pieces. But clients on tvOS, iOS, and iPadOS have been a bit thin on the ground. There is an official Jellyfin app. There's one called SwiftFin that works quite well as well, although I found it would forget my credentials every so often, which was a little annoying. And then you could use things like Infuse as well, which I think I've had an app of the week as Infuse before, but that's a subscription app. I have found this one called Moonfin for tvOS. It's an open source app. You can download the code from GitHub, but it's actually available on the App Store as well. It's a front end for Jellyfin and Emby, which is another free and open source media streaming platform, also based on Xbox Media Client Center, as a lot of these things were. So I've been trying that out for the last couple of days on my tvOS. It's quite slick, actually. I quite like it, I gotta say. It does a bit of pre-roll stuff, so if you're like hovering over something trying to decide what to watch, it will start playing in a little thumbnail, which I quite like. It remembers what you were watching. I'm not 100% convinced it remembers where I was if I stopped watching something at this point, which is slightly annoying, but I'll come back to that maybe next week with a bit of follow-up. But I'm quite impressed so far. For an open source, can download from the Play Store, has a lot of functionality built into it. Moonfin, certainly for Jellyfin, I can't speak to Emby, is working pretty well for me.
Yeah, I concur with everything you've just said. So I have played with this, but not for very long. So I just booted it up, I had a look at it on my TV, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's different layout kind of thing. So yeah, I'd like to have a little play a bit more with it, but it's a good app, and yeah, would recommend you just go get it from the App Store.
Look at me recommending tvOS things.
Yeah, what is going on?
And last but not least, thing of the week.
So I'm going with Amazon's music store, which I know you love Amazon, but I recently started ripping some old CDs and listening to music offline, and there were a few albums I didn't have the CDs for, so I went and got the top-ups on here. And you could buy them and you download them, and there's no DRM in it. So I can go and play it on my iPod, I can play it on my Mac, I can play it on whatever I want to do. And I'm happy to buy MP3s, but I just don't want the DRM. So really happy with this, and quite easy to download. And I managed to get, they've got a really good catalogue. I managed to get lots of odds and ends that I wanted just to complete my transition over to offline music. So would recommend. But I just had no idea that Amazon's MP3 store was DRM free. Like, it just didn't seem that well advertised to me.
No, it's funny thinking about buying MP3s again. Can you still buy them on iTunes or whatever the equivalent of iTunes is?
Yeah, if you turn iTunes back on, you can, but they're obviously loaded with DRM, and that's not doing what I want, because who knows what I want to listen to them on in 5 years' time. So I was trying to be a bit more selective about what I got, because I just didn't want any DRM. And most bands don't let you buy direct. So the Doves, you could buy the last 3 albums from their website, and they just gave me a link and I downloaded the MP3s I bought. But nearly every other band has, you can only buy like vinyl, and some you could buy tapes from, but none of the bands let you buy MP3s either.
That seems like an oversight. Is it really the case that iTunes songs are DRM encumbered with DRM? Because that's what Steve Jobs didn't like, I seem to recall.
No, they were all for the DRM. Do you remember you could play it like on 5 Macs and so many iPods? So they are loaded with DRM. You need to authenticate to be able to play them. And like I said, I'm trying to position myself. I'm happy to buy stuff, but I just don't want DRM on it.
No, I think that's fair enough. Your media should be your media. It's what we're talking about with operating systems before.
Yep.
I don't want to rent my operating system. I want to own it. I bought the hardware that it runs on, the Macs that it run on. It should be my operating system. Windows, you definitely rent. Linux, you own. And I think that's correct all the way through the platform. You know, it's been a personal bugbear of ours when Sony reach in and take out the games that you bought. So I think it's only fair.
Yep, no, agreed. So that's what we're doing, but I would recommend Amazon MP3 store for anyone who wants to go and get MP3s again.
I think we can call that a show, Chris.
And so if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. I'm at _CGP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to wakefromsleep.com and clicking on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email, wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.